Live from Dubai, a Gorcom small cap show. If you're looking for an emerging small cap stock that is literally shattering the performance metrics of an old conventional industry to the point it signed an LOI with the biggest player in that industry, then you're going to love this interview with HPQ Silicon, who is literally shattering the process for manufacturing fumed silica. A lot of people don't know what that is. Doesn't sound sexy, but it's used in uncountable everyday items and high-tech applications from toothpaste to EV batteries, cosmetics, and powdered food. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. But if HPQ proves up what they think they're proving up here, their potential becoming the Netflix that blockbusters this global industry. Because since 1944, the fume silica industry has relied on the same conventional fossil fuel intensive manufacturing process that's toxic, expensive, and terrible for the environment. And if you need third party validation, like I said up top, the inventor of Fumed Silica, the largest fumed silica company on the planet, has signed a letter of intent with HPQ to test pilot plant samples and help scale up to commercial specifications. And that's where we are at today. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, George.
All right. So you've been reporting successful tests, numbers 1 to 6, over the past year, getting better, getting better, getting better. And now you're on the cusp of commercial, that final commercial stage. How big is this test number 7 towards commercialization? And are you the nervous father, in the waiting room now, waiting for the commercial baby to be born?
Well, I think the commercial baby is going to be born. I think we're just going to go through, we're going through the process to make sure that everything is fine with the commercial baby. Because when we started the process of doing the tests, we knew, we knew what we were doing, and the technical people at Pyro knew what they were doing, and we have a very high level of confidence that we were doing it. But until you get the test results, you don't know. So it's an in between, sort of an in between position. You're excited, anxious, you can't wait for the results. But if you look at the progression we've done over the multiple tests, we've gotten very far away. We're very close to our target in the sense that, in test 6, we did make fumed silica. Okay, we did make commercial quality fumed silica. But in our financial models, really to be able to push us, for us to enter the big boys league, really, we need to make, greater than 150. After that, we can decide how it is, and we think the probability that we've done this are very, very high.
Question for you. Samples this from the press release. Samples have been shipped to an accredited third-party laboratory for certification, with results expected within 10 business days. So there are two parts of that. The first one is, why didn't you ship the samples this time to the LOI partner?
Well, nothing in the press release says
who you've shipped to the last 6.
Nothing in the press release, can lead us to believe we didn't do this. The question is, and the point we really wanted to stress more in this press release, is we send it to an independent third-party accredited laboratory. The reason for this is, as we will start to enter commercial discussions with different individuals from government entities that will start looking at financing, building, commercial plants, to doing those type of things, to other third parties, financiers, institution. While it is nice to have the material from the largest player in the industry, you need an accredited, stamped on results. And we know from experience that the accredited results, for a multiple reason, are the probability that the results we're going to get from the accredited lab are going to be a bit better than what we've gotten from the LOI partner, for a very simple reason. Yeah, for a very simple reason. They're expert in fumed silica, so they don't go through the entire protocol of doing the test. They do their test for their material. They get the results that they're happy with, and they move on. An accredited test has to follow a protocol that is recognized. Protocol that can be repeated, standardized, and done all over again. Okay. So, and then at the end, that laboratory puts a stamp on it, and that stamp can become public. So from that stamp, we can make a data sheet of the material that we've made that we can then send to potential clients as, this is the material we have. Okay. So as we get closer, and we were pretty close at 136, and now we're going to be pretty close at, I think we're going to be at 140. I mean, over 150. It's better to have that stamp. It's really important to have that stamp into the material. So nobody can question the material, especially if you start to do financial models. And the reality is, even though the LOI partner gives us the information, they're how can I say this? They're cautious about what we can publish of that information. You'll notice that we haven't been able to
Right.
publish SEM picture over the none, even though if we could have, it would have really helped explain the story and how we've advanced the story. So that gives us much more flexibility for us as we enter into the beginning of a commercialization concept discussion. Does that answer your question?
You took, yeah, yeah, no, in fact, look, it sounds like to me the most important thing is you can take those results and share them with the entire world, um, as opposed to maybe you get proprietary results for your eyes only kind of results from the partner. Now, question, devil's advocate. Does
Mhm.
this, I don't think it does, but I get asked anyways, does this, upset the LOI partner, or do they understand, hey, for this last stage, you've got to get, the thorough result that you can that you can get the stamp on to create data sheets and all that. Or are they like, hey, why don't you send it to us?
To be totally honest, it's like it's sort of not really relevant what they think about it because we have to think what's best for HPQ Silica pulveris. Okay. And it's better to be in a good position to say, you know, we can replicate what you're doing. We've made the material. And it's not overly complicated, this. It's just that if we want to send material to a series of other people that have asked it for material in NDAs, it's much better to have our own independent results to do it. And now that we've gotten the material this close to the benchmark at test 6, and we believe at test 7 we have it, we think it's an extra advantage, and it's an extra plus for us to do it this way. Okay, at test 6, okay, we said we'll send it to the third party, we'll send it to the LOI, and you, was that you? Well, there was a weird feedback.
Oh, we're here. We're good. Keep going.
Okay. All right. That was okay. As I said, at test 6, we said we're going to send it to the third party and to the university. Now, university takes 3 times longer than the first one. So once we got the results from the LOI partner, well, there was nothing more for us to gain by this. Okay. There would be no logic for us to send it to an accredited laboratory to get it in within 10 days when we already knew the general ballpark or the figure out. And from that, we got enough information to figure out what we need to do just to get it above the line, to finish the first finish line. But at this stage, since we're very, very confident that we've gone above that finish line, that we will now have a higher grade commercial material than we produce at 6, which is the one that we were looking for, which is the one on which a lot of our financial models are based, we think it was very important for us to have that accredited material.
Uh, I question for you. And now
Mhm.
I might be reading into it, but I got to ask because I like to kind of listen to every word you say. Is this being prudent, which it obviously is being prudent that you, or can I read into this a little bit and assume that do you have other parties around the world that want those data sheets in addition to the OI partner who have maybe expressed an interest or a desire to have more data, more comprehensive data, thorough data, or are you just being prudent? Am I reading too much into that?
Well, A, we're being prudent, but B, and I don't think we're hiding it. I think in the press release we even said that we want to send materials to other parties under NDA. The question was, you know, with the leading party, we had an ongoing relationship. They knew that, we were working to get it higher. With the other parties, it's more commercial. This is our material. Okay. This is what we do. Let's start talking bacon. Uh, and
Talking
basically,
bacon, I love it.
and if you think about it, and I think we'll probably talk more about this, but all the stars are falling together for us to follow through an execution plan about, you know, not taking over, but becoming the Canadian supplier of fumed silica to the Canadian market. So,
Okay, okay. I'm glad you brought that up because
mhm,
there isn't much more to talk about at this point because now you got to wait for the results in 10 days. And this would be
mhm,
at 10 minutes and 20 seconds, the shortest interview we would have ever done. Uh, and I've always been on I've always been pushing on this with you, whereas I always said, let's talk about commercialization, what that looks like. What are you
mhm,
thinking? Is it sell the technology outright? Is it license it, partner? Do you go regional? Do you go with a bunch of guys? Do you go global with one big leader? It's interesting that you brought up Canada because even though I'm
mhm.
here in Dubai, and sorry, guys, by the way, that's why I don't have the best lighting either because I'm in a hotel room, so I can't control the lighting much. But Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, gave a big speech last night that a lot of people were talking about. Love him or hate him, whatever your politics are. He's talking about, and I've got some excerpts here: unprecedented investment in Canadian manufacturing, building with Canadian technologies and materials, reducing reliance on imports from the US and the tariff volatility that comes with that. And fumed silica, we know, is a critical material that's currently not produced in Canada. It's subject to tariff risks. It's subject to supply chain vulnerability given all the consternation
Mhm.
going on, and therefore even just plain old rising costs. There is no manufacturer of fumed silica in Canada right now, Bernard. So
Mhm.
is that the first point of attack for you guys? Like, no matter what you do with any other player around the world, is Canada a major priority for you guys, no matter what?
Well, we've said it in our deck and we've been very clear, okay, in the sense that for us, the Canadian market is the low-hanging fruit for us to take. And we've always said that there would be government support, but the level of government support is now going to go through the roof. Fume silica is part of a quartz, which is part of a critical mineral. Um, so it's a critical material. There is no Canadian producer, so we're not replacing anybody else in Canada. It's like, what's better than doing an export of material, okay, is eliminating an import and basically onshoring it, okay?
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
same
same
time,
thing.
we're talking about a green technology, a green process, okay? Traditional process to make fumed silica are the largest emitter of CO2 per kilogram of material produced because they start with silicon metal, okay? Simple as that. So we fit like check mark, check mark, check mark of everything. We have a decent sized market of probably like in a $200 million a year of sale. Okay. We have if there's a Buy Canada sort of philosophy act, we fit exactly into it. We're not gonna do, beaver washing. It's gonna be really made in Canada. Everything's gonna be made in Canada, from the technology to the process to the system. So if there's a project that fits all the criteria to get government help to start to go into commercial production, we're it. We meet all the criteria. We have a
And
track record.
and and if you hadn't gotten the $3 million grant from the federal government for your battery side just a couple
Mhm,
of weeks ago,
mhm.
you could be accused of saying, "Hey, you're just pulling this out of the air," but you pulled it off. I
Well, wait,
want
wait,
to talk
but
about
but
that.
but George, remember also, okay? The Quebec government is also a shareholder in HPQ at 8% because they finance the technology. So if you look at all the Canadian infrastructure to come in, we have a project that fits well into it. Okay. And this is where having an accredited laboratory telling us, yes, you've made commercial material plays strong because we can start demonstrating in Canada that the technology work, give it a value through sales, get government assistance through either strategic loan, low interest loan, with long payback periods and those type of things, and all other type of tools. So we can structure something within HPQ Silica Pulveris, okay, that can that can really start to move. And Canadian user of fume silica, okay, will be happy to have a
Yep.
cheaper option. But just
And
one
it can,
thing is
or
going
even if it's the same price, it's a
yeah.
Canadian option because it seems like there's a real, just like Trump has done in the U.S. with really
Yeah.
putting emphasis on buy and produce. in the United States. That sounds like what Mark Carney is trying to do right now. Let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
And I know I'm not sure if you guys have a business plan for this or you've done back and math or whatever you might have done. But if it's about a $200 million market in Canada, a couple of
Hmm.
questions I have for you. What's a realistic market share that you could grab? And that comes down to price competition. Like if you tell me, George, we can be 10, 20, 30% cheaper, then you can get a big market share. And then the second thing is, how difficult would it to be get that market share? What I mean by that is Fumed Silica are really consolidated. There are maybe 10 big buyers across the country because some in the food business and some in the different industries, or is it really fragmented and it would be more difficult for you to be able to try and put together market share?
I think it's going to be a mix of both, but there's definitely going to be, people that use significant quantities of material. And remember, in our case, somebody that's using 500 tons per that material a year is a significant quality. That's a half a year of one plant being associated with
Wait,
that.
say that
So,
again, because you kind
uh,
of say that part again about the math there.
sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. So basically, sorry, I don't know what happened. Like it cut. And so I was saying about the math, if you look at the size of the market, like $200 million, we have big profit margin. It's going to be relatively easy for, not relatively easy, it's going to be easier for HPQ Silica Pulveris to become a player because there are players that basically will use significant quantity, let's say 500 ton of the material per year for their own application. So they're going to appreciate having a Canadian dollar price material, they don't like the next day there's a massive tariff shortage. Somebody decides not to ship it anymore because he woke up on the wrong side. So all that's going to be part of the security through Canada. And the concept is that we can build our plants closer because remember, shipping fume silica is a part of the cost. So when it comes into it, we know we're going to be cost competitive. Definitely know we're going to be cost competitive. It's not even difficult to think. So we're going to be cost
Well,
competitive.
in your specs last year, it's
Mhm.
your costs seem like to shatter the cost. Like you had significantly bigger margins than the traditional. I remember we about a year ago, 10 months ago. So is that still the case? You still find that's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're gonna have significantly bigger margin, which gives you more price to play with?
Yeah. If you think about it, the traditional fume silica is sort of a waste product that is treated into another value product, but it's a low margin product. And the reason why it's controlled by large chemical companies is within their portfolio of businesses, it can be something of interest. So it was always difficult for anybody else to enter that business. So what happens is once we demonstrate we make 150, demonstrate that we can go directly from quartz to fume to commercial grade fume silica. Okay, the barriers to entry, completely explode. Now, the next step for us is to start to be commercial, start to having our own plan, start to become a true competitors to it or a true partner to it. It's like they could, it could eventually be somebody says, okay, all our Canadian sales are going to be done through HPQ Silica Pulveris. You guys will do the white label brand and we'll even reduce the risk level. And government's going to love it more to give us more money to start off with, or we'll just go and scale up intelligently and compete. But the opportunity for us in Canada are massive. The timing for us could not be better. Okay, in the sense that it is now part of the strategic goal of the government, just like it is for our battery material. We have a track record of being able to have done that. We've gotten the government grant for the batteries, so we understand how the concept works. We've already once got a significant financing from the Quebec government to start our projects, and they're large shareholders, and they're looking to create value-added product. The reality is Quebec has a lot of quartz, but what do they do with it? We can turn in Quebec, Canada has a lot of quartz and quartz vein. So let's figure a way to turn that into a material that can have a lot of future, which is fume silica. It's going to be green. It's going to be all those issues. So what I'm saying is, although on the surface the news we issued today looks like another boring news, okay, small news. We just made this stuff. if you look at it in its entirety, the timing of it, where we are, the entire environment situation where it is, where there's a government that's going to be saying, we want to finance a Canadian growth to a Canadian industry that basically will allow more a buy Canadian type of philosophy. And you come in, and they also said, also, we would like to make all those technology more green. Well, we fit all the check marks.
Have you had any discussions about the fume silica side with the federal government in any way, shape,
Not
form?
yet.
Because we saw a video of you being in the room on the battery side, with some
No.
federal ministers and all that. But no. So if you haven't, how easy is it going to be for you to have those conversations? Would you go through the Quebec government because on the provincial side, or would you go straight to the federal government and say, "Hey, you got it, you gave me a grant for the battery side. I've got
Well,
this now on the fume silica side."
it doesn't really work like this, but what's going to happen is you design a package and you start to go see, but they're going to be starting talking about those programs that we able to come in. With regard to in Quebec, we know who to approach. Uh, We just got to go back to Investissement Québec. We got to go back to La Caisse de dépôt. We got to go talk to these things. And the same thing at the federal level. We will be talking to the appropriate people to just go and sell our project and present them. And this is why the accredited results that we're going to have are going to be very important. We're going to say, listen, it's not us saying this. Uh, we got those material tested. This is a test that can be repeated. We can do this material. We have a pilot plan that's operational. The pilot plan is going to be, we're going to be starting. That's what people have to realize. And I think one of the questions people were asking is, okay, so you're still talking about a test eight. Yeah, well, test eight is trying to see if we can go like mega high, but it doesn't really change. Once we go 150, we can go commercial. We can start thinking about going commercial, those type of thing. It's just as long as going through the phase of doing the process improvement, let's try to see how high can we go. Can we go to 200? Can we go to 300? We think we can because we sort of figure out how to get us there.
But yeah, it's
Uh,
not required, but if you can shoot for it while you're commercializing at 150, yeah, you'll go for it. Let me ask you a question. How
yeah.
much money would you need, devil's advocate, though? How much money would you need in order to properly address the Canadian market? And how do
No,
you
it,
go about that?
it would really depend. I would think more of a structured way of doing it. If you look at the size of the Canadian market, maybe it's about, maybe it's, 15 to 20,000 ton per year. We're talking about 1,000 ton per year fume silica reactor. The logic is for us would be to build fume silica reactors in cluster so that we can better amortize the packaging section and the raw material handling section. Because if we build five and we have each one of them is because you have to have specialized packaging, so you have one by foot. So that those are the tough. But we're not talking about hundred millions of dollars. I think we're talking 15 to 20 million dollars for 1,000 ton per year plant. And if we make 150, then we have the size material 150 to 200, the size material that's the most in demand. So
So you
that's
could, I
really
would assume, if you're going to be prudent, you're not going to try and build 15 of them at once, assuming
no,
100% market share. So you'd start off with three or
yeah.
four, maybe
Mhm.
four of those, $15 million for each at $60 million ballpark.
Yeah, but you can start with one. You can build the plant, okay, to house four reactors. Okay. You just start with one reactor,
Right,
get everything
right.
moving. Then once you debug the first reactor, because the first reactor is going to have a few debugging, it's normal, it's part of the process. Then you just copy and paste, and then it becomes faster. So though the options that we have for this are multiple, but the opportunities
Nice.
are the opportunities for us. Like this is what I want people to realize. Just Canada. Okay? Now, once we've demonstrated it works in Canada, once we've demonstrated the technology is for real. Well, let's put it in reverse. We're demonstrating technology is for real at pilot scale. We'll start operating at 50 ton. We'll demonstrate it's real at pilot scale. Once it moves to 1,000 ton per year, okay, there are a lot of companies that use about 1,000 to 2,000 tons of fumed silica material per year that are basically right now hand tie having to go through the big boys. And these companies might want to say to themselves, wait a minute, I want to be more vertically integrated. Because some of them might say, oh, I have a quartz mine subsidiary somewhere. and they're going to want. So the opportunity for us for scaling up joint ventures everywhere else is going to be there, but we'll be able to demonstrate it in Canada in a way that we're going to be generating the cash flow to sustain the operation as we grow forward. So that's the plan. That's the vision. We're executing on it.
Like it.
Uh, and what today's press release says is that it's moving forward. Now, some people are going to try to find, holes in the strategy. They're-
Yeah, forget those guys. Yeah, I mean, they've been
but the
trying to do that for a
reality
year.
but the reality is we've executed. Okay. We've made this material at lab scale. We've made it at pilot scale. Now we're entering into the final workaround to get the official certification. We have the commercial material, and then we'll move on from there.
This must build into your global strategy because if I'm the world's largest fume silicon manufacturer and I've signed an LOI with you and you've got NDAs, as you said, signed with multiple other parties that we don't know, but obviously they must be decent sized players in the industry. Does this give you the muscle to have a better negotiating strategy at the end of the day? Because if you start moving ahead with commercializing Canada where there's no competition and these guys can't even come here because they'd have to build the old, really expensive, dirty manufacturing process. They wouldn't even be allowed to build it, I don't think, right?
Mhm.
Um, does the Canadian operation launching that give you the muscle to negotiate? Because I'm assuming you don't want to do, I'm assuming you don't want to build Canadian operations, be successful, show that you can do it, and then go do it in Europe, and then go do it in Asia, and then go do it in America. You'd probably at that point want to, you know, you'd want to use your muscle to sign the best potential partnership licensing deals for the rest of the world. Is that what you're thinking? Does Canada give you that powerful foundation to make fantastic deals for the rest of the world?
I think Canada, and the way it is structured right now. Okay, let's be realistic. Okay, just the
Well, we have
fact that
been.
well, but let's even be more realistic in our think how sexy this suddenly becomes. Okay, if you're because they're all foreign, not Canadian companies. Okay, and we get all these things lined up, the value of the entirety of the technology becomes there, and because we have government support, and as I wrote in my thing, okay, the odds are that the same model can be replicated in the United States because in the United States, they do not have 100% self-sufficiency of the material. So I'm thinking the Canadian operations are going to become very valuable as a demonstration of the potential of the blue sky
Sure.
potential of the entire
Absolutely.
technologies. And with the government support, it will be very important to move things forward, and it goes there. So what we announced today is basically to get old investors understand that we are executing on a plan and get new investors that are taking a look at this as wait a minute, this looks very, very strong. Yes, it fits in within the political situation. And it fits very, very well. It's going to fit for many, many years.
Yeah, love him or hate him, Trump has done a big favor to HPQ Silicon, something you didn't see a year ago when you signed your LOI, which is it's made
Mhm.
the country say, forget this. We want to be self-sufficient on, especially when it comes to a resilient supply chain, right? You don't want
But
to be at
the funny part
anybody's
is
mercy anymore. So if you can build
that's
out
all.
Canada,
Yeah.
supply chain cheaper, cleaner, all of it.
Mhm. That's always been sort of the approach that we took. All right. The problem is that we were maybe too ahead of the thinking. Okay. And we just, some of the material we don't look. The deal we have for the batteries from the government is based on what? Exactly the same concept. All right. Get a Canadian value chain to make battery materials to make it moving. Why do you think we got this R&D financing to build a better machine? But that better machine, when it's going to be working 50 ton, will allow us to make enough material to make 40 million batteries. So it's all toward a line of commercial production. So it fits within the overall goal. In an industrial age, we're talking about what? Replacing old polluting processes by new green technologies, giving Canada an incredible competitive advantage.
By the way, will you be able to sell carbon credits off that? Because if I'm George Calm Fumed Silica and I've got a big
I think the
manufacturing
value of
process
carbon
in
credit,
Europe,
you know what? I'm not even going to try to go there. I think for a certain period of time, carbon valuation was a nice concept, but we're now in a period where the skepticism about this. See, this is the beauty of our technology. All right. Although we remove massive amount of carbon, okay, we still
you
make the
do, right?
material.
Because if you let's say you replace that $200 million market, it's all you. Let's just say that's all you, and that's
Mhm.
how many tons that is. That means George Calm over here, the dirty process in Greece that's been doing for 40 years, I'm selling a lot less of that. I'm manufacturing a lot less of it. Therefore, you're reducing carbon emissions into the world. Isn't that worth something at the end of the day? I don't know. We're just riffing. I love the fact we're just riffing, but that's got to be worth something to somebody.
It's always been sort of my argument, and I think in the LOI app we plugged it in. If there's any additional value that comes from our green material, we get 100% of it. And we're going to get into it. In theory, okay, that would work if the concept was that when you import a material to Canada that is made outside, you have a carbon tax attached to it. Now, the word carbon tax right now has become so,
Toxic.
toxic that it becomes irrelevant to talk about it. But this is the beauty of our technology. Okay. People that understand, that have a vision, that want to have a greener world will say, hey, this is a better material. But the good news is it's actually cheaper than making it the traditional process. Because it's nice to say that we remove carbon, okay? But the biggest thing we do is we remove HCI from the production, hydrogen chloride gas, which is what makes this a dangerous material to produce, which makes the many manufacturing of that very, very complicated. That needs very specific part. We could build a HPQ fumed silica plant almost anywhere. Okay. You cannot build a plant that has to deal with hydrogen chloride gas, okay, on a regular basis. You got to find a buyer for this. You got to find how you're going to treat, how you're going to get rid of those issues. We don't have that issue.
Oh yeah, you have to build in the middle of nowhere because no one would want you in their backyard. Whereas I'm
And when
assuming,
you're middle
uh,
of nowhere, you got the energy costs, you got the transportation
yeah,
costs, you got all those
yeah,
issues coming in. Listen, our material is so unique, okay, is that it's impossible for anybody to say that the claim if there's somebody ever wanted to copy our material and put a false label into it, it will be very easy to figure out that it's not true because it's either made by our patented proprietary process or it's made by fume hydrolysis. Fume hydrolysis, as a side effect, creates hydrogen chloride gas, which basically leaves a signature on the material. So,
awesome.
everybody that tests our material by the pH, by the quantity, by the material knows that we have a different process of making it.
Do you put that on the blockchain in order to be able to track its entire process and put that on the blockchain? I mean, again, we're riffing here because we need to wait 10 days for the official results to come back. But I love these kind of
We're not going to
conversations.
riff for
Like
10
the,
days because we might get tired.
but
I
but
think
does it
people
does
might
that
get
become
tired of our
something where
face.
you do you put the whole process on the blockchain so that way someone can track the quartz when it's manufactured, when it's shipped,
Yeah,
and
but
all of it.
court.
That way, you 100%, 100% eliminate any issues with respect to anybody tries to pretend they're you.
If somebody's going to try to pretend that they're me, they're going basically going to be able to, almost create. A blockchain is nothing else than the ledger that shows everything where you bought the material. So it would be like digitalizing our control. In a certain way, we know where our raw material comes from, and our raw material is just quartz. We only have one raw material. It's not very complicated, so we'll know where it comes from. Second one is electricity, so we know where it comes from. The third one is we make our material. They'll have our own label, and we'll ship it, or we'll do it white label for somebody else under offtake agreement.
All right, man. I think we covered everything there. I was going to talk a little bit more about government, but I think we'd be putting our cart before the horse. I was curious of that $15 million to do a 1,000 ton, plant. How much is that the government? But let's not put the cart before the horse. This has been awesome.
Mhm.
And now, it's October the 23rd. Do you think by Halloween? I guess we know 7 to 10 days, right? It'd be great if we had something something really
it's
cool
like
for
even
Halloween.
even when I was dealing with the large during the test, we don't know. Shit can happen. Piece of machinery can broke. It happened when we were dealing with the other one. So it's like I'll
But
wait till
you're
we get
past
the
that because these
results.
have been shipped to the part. These have been shipped to the
Yeah, yeah,
lab
no,
now. So
those are no. It's not that. It's like at the laboratory, there might be just one piece of machinery that's broken, and it's like we lived that experience with the other ones. So it's like I'm gonna wait till I get the results, but they said 10-day turnaround time, so
well,
we'll take him at the world.
um, so start pacing up and down the hallway. You're the nervous daddy waiting for the 150 to come home, and I think a lot of people are going to be kind of walking and pacing with you. But I can't wait to
Well,
have you back, and I'll be back by then, so you won't be disrupting any more travels of mine. I've been gone for a while, but I can't
yeah,
wait
but
until we.
talking about pacing, I was pacing for a while, waiting until the batteries arrive, but I'm pretty sure that too is coming to an end too. So.
Are you trying to sneak in something about the battery? Is that
I'm
what
just,
you're
I'm
trying
just,
to do in
you're
there?
talking about a nervous father waiting back and forth for the arrival of the battery. So that was the thing I was pacing back and forth.
Because I was saying pacing back and forth the next 7, 10 days, waiting for the results to come back on fume silica, but you're kind of dropping in some about batteries. All right, is you want to talk about that for a second?
No.
You bastard. Okay, drop the little breadcrumbs. Then I guess we'll follow them. We'll follow them home. All right, my
Hmm.
man. Listen, we're all behind you. You guys have brought the company this far. We're not going to pop the champagne. We're not going to jinx it. That's why I'm doing. Good luck, the whole thing, and I can't wait to have you back 7, 10 days from now, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter, whatever it is. We're all waiting for you. We're all rooting for you, and we thank you for you brought us, my friend, and for everyone at home. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stick with us. We're almost there on the fume silica side. Let's
Well,
continue
you
to
know what?
wish for the.
I don't like that sentence. We're almost there. We're basically on a path moving forward toward commercialization, toward the baking part, and we've basically, at one point we said once we started getting material in the bag house, we knew that the preponderance of big difficulty issues had been resolved. And we're just one more step moving forward. The only issue is sometimes it takes longer between two tests than I would have thought, but still a in concept. But in hindsight, when we're going to look back at those results, let's say we get those results, it's 150 to 170, and nobody's going to care that much about the delay about it. Nobody's going to make it that
Yeah,
much of
well,
a.
we haven't even talked about the delays because there was a bit of a delay in number seven. You had to do a couple of
Mhm.
upgrades. We didn't even talk about that, but that's fine.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
was being conservative when I said we're almost there because it's like you
Yeah,
said once, you're either there or you're not,
yeah,
right? It's
that's true.
binary. You're either over
Mhm.
one, you're either over 150, or you're not over 150. So I was just being conservative, but I'll use your words. I'll end it there. I'm gonna your words. Thanks everyone for joining us. Hang tight, keep posting to Agoracom, post your questions, post your comments there. Like we said, we want to create the best HPQ silicon community of the planet because if everything goes as Bernard is expecting it to go, we're going to be attracting in a lot more investors, a lot more people from around the world, and we want to give them that civilized, moderated, great constructive place where they're talking rather than the madhouse of other places. And Bernard, while you're pacing back and forth, you got to promise everyone you're going to pop into a Gorcom, post some thoughts, answer some questions. Do we have your promise on that on video?
I will make my best to be able to do it, but people have to understand that I may have other things that are much more like I love to exchange in communication, but the problem is I'm always having to talk with three hands behind my back between what I say.
3 hands behind
And
your back, another
well,
Bernius.
basically, it's my birdieism for this one, but you understand what I'm saying. Like I have to be much more cautious about what's being said, those type of materials, and sometimes the question that people ask, I know the answer is going to come in a few, in a moment. I know where it's coming from, where it's coming. So it's
All right,
like
all right.
that
Well,
that that
you'll
that
do
that,
your
that,
best.
that, that that's the key point. I'll do my best.
We'll wait on bated breath. You're like that superstar that we're all waiting to come to the club on a Saturday night, even if you just come in for an hour and everyone just goes wild, and then you leave, and then the rest of us peons just continue celebrating. And we're just happy that you popped into the nightclub even for an hour. So, all right,
What
buddy,
time is
let's
it?
leave it
What time is it in
there.
Dubai? Because you're starting to go wild now. Okay.
Well, the thing is, I can hear it. You guys can't hear it, but I'm up on the 10th floor of a hotel, but there's a massive party going on at an
No,
outdoor club,
we
and I can
actually
hear.
heard it at one point. We actually heard it at one point. I told us that there was some weird noise. That's how we actually heard it.
All right, maybe that's what was it because I didn't hear it, but maybe you guys picked up on mic. Thank you, my man. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Good night from Dubai. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Hey, small cap fam! I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.